Welcome to this presentation about Zotero, focusing on a lot of the new features that are available in the version 6 release of Zotero that came out earlier this year in 2022. Zotero itself has been around for something like 18 years now, so it's a pretty mature tool. They never really remove or drastically alter features. They try to build in new features and improve those upon those features rather than kind of hit you with a big redesign or take away that one thing that you liked to use. But it's still pretty sleek and easy to use interface. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have the Zotero desktop application open already with all of the 622 some items that I've saved over the years for my own testing and research purposes. I just want to remind everybody that there's a couple of moving parts here when you install Zotero. There is a program that you install on your desktop, and our IT staff can help you install that if you would like to try to do that, because you do need administrative privileges to put it on your own on your RIT computer. But you can install it on a personal computer or a personal device as well. And there is also a second piece called a browser connector. I hope everyone can see this, but I can resize my window. But there is, I'm using Chrome for demonstration purposes, but there's a little button here that you install that lives in your browser wherever you're actually doing some searching that will say save to Zotero. So those are kind of the moving parts, so to speak. Now, one of the huge advantages of Zotero, less so now than in the past, was its flexibility. The desktop client is available for all major operating systems, Mac, Windows, Linux. The browser connector is available for all major browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari. So it is extremely flexible. It is also flexible when it comes to using word processing software. You can add references that you save in Zotero and cite them in citations and bibliographies in Microsoft Word. Pretty standard for any kind of citation management tool. Zotero also works with LibreOffice, which is an open source Office productivity suite. Works very nicely with that. I have that on my personal laptop here, so I don't have to buy Microsoft Office for my home use. And it also works with Google Docs. And this is not a version 6 feature. This has actually been an integration that's been around for a few years. And among the major players in the citation management world, software update. I just had Joe install a software update for me last week. Okay. I won't worry about that. Hopefully I won't encounter any bugs that are squashed by the software update. So yeah, among the major citation management programs, Zotero is so far the only one I've encountered that does work with Google Docs and allows you to insert correctly formatted citations and bibliographies into Google Docs, which is very helpful, as especially a lot of our students are using that for a writing tool. All right, so let's, what's up on the screen now is also my info guide on Zotero, and this is under construction. Those of you that are old as I am remember those under construction GIFs from the 90s. I didn't put one up here, but it truly is. So I've begun to update this, but I had to put a pause on due to some vacation time I took earlier this month. And I'll continue doing that in the near future and making this guide more up to date and hopefully a little more user friendly. But all the instructions on installing and adding references can be found here. But why don't we actually go to a resource and add it? So here I am at the RIT Libraries catalog. Let's say I want to look for a book written and published by our friends at the RIT Press, such as Up Against the Wall. So I'm now looking at the catalog record for our copy of Up Against the Wall. It is checked out from Ritter. That's okay. I don't need to actually borrow that book, and shameless plug for our friends, you should buy a copy. The exhibition was wonderful. I got to see it in May. It's now been closed, unfortunately, but it was really great if you were able to see it this spring. So the browser connector here now says save to Zotero from a library catalog. And if I click that, it says saving to my library. It's the record for Up Against the Wall. And you'll notice that all the information that I need to make a correct reference is now saved, and more. In the abstract field is a summary from the catalog record. It is identified as a book. I can make notes and add annotations or personal notes that way. The Library of Congress subject headings were ported over as tags. So if I have other records in Zotero that are about posters, I could add the tag posters and automatically retrieve them with the tag search down here in the bottom left. If I use my context menu here, so I'm going to click, see if I can push this. No, I can't do that. Okay, so I'm still looking in the center here. I have the entry for Up Against the Wall and the alphabetical list of all of my references in my library. I'm going to right click on that. That calls up a little menu. So this is one of the things where you have to kind of know about this, because it may not be intuitive that you have functions available kind of at the click of a button, and you just have to right click on them. I'm going to create a bibliography from this item. And it's going to ask me what citation style. I'm going to use Chicago Manual author date. And then it's going to say, well, output method. How should I output this? I'm going to actually copy it to my clipboard. And then if I can go into Google Docs, but I have a link right here to Word. And if I open a blank Word document and paste it in there, there is the Chicago Manual of Style formatted reference for this book. So that's kind of the basic operations of Zotero. You're conducting searches, you're saving references. You can enrich those references by adding tags and notes and annotations, but you can output those references in formatted citations into documents, and you can do this as you write as well. The other thing you can do is save PDFs directly to Zotero. So here is a recent article from an IEEE ACM journal, Transactions on Computational Biology and Bioinformatics. This is way over my head. I would not understand what Dean Hakey and these other investigators, one of whom is this is something that I noticed about Golisano College, actually, now that I'm transitioning away from supporting them. They're often going to put the graduate student as the first name and then have the faculty. So that helps build their CVs. It's a really cool idea, and I'm very appreciative that they're helping some of our PhD students especially kind of get their names on these papers first. Anyways, that's a PDF that's just saved on my desktop. All I have to do Just drag it in. And Zotero actually contacts Crossref, which is a big online repository of citation and reference data, and populates all of the metadata for me. So I didn't even have to use I didn't have to go to IEEE Explorer. I could have, but I didn't have to go to IEEE Explorer and save that using the browser connector. I could just take the paper and save it in here itself. And you can use that browser connector to save references from just about any source. If you are looking at books on Amazon and something interesting comes up, or you're reading the website of your favorite news source, you can actually save news articles and information about books from Amazon using the browser connector to Zotero. It's very flexible that way. And I chose the Chicago Manual of Style. It's a commonly used style. There are actually something like 10,000 total styles available. So you can customize the output styles that you want by choosing from that style repository among those 10,000 or so output styles, and have almost anything you could possibly want to cite in available to you. So what I'm kind of thinking about lately is a lot of my instruction about using Zotero has kind of focused on this kind of stuff that I've covered in the last 10 minutes or so. It's the nuts and bolts of how to use the program and how to get things in the features of it. But especially when I meet with our graduate students, I really want to hit home that this is, and not just Zotero, but any tool like this, is not just a research and writing tool, but it's an organizational tool. So this is your research brain on your desktop. So everything, particularly if you're working towards your doctoral dissertation or your master's thesis, and you're reading dozens and dozens of articles or books or other literature, you have the ability to keep track of all that literature here in Zotero or other tools like it. And you have the ability to do things like create collections. So I could choose to make a new collection, and I'll just kind of show you, these are some other collections I've made in the past. So I can take anything that I've saved in my library, which is the default kind of big bucket, and put it into collections. And you can actually also, by right-clicking on something, you can create a bibliography from a collection and just have an instant bibliography that way. So I have to find that paper again. This title starts with predicting. Okay, there it is. Okay, notes and annotations. Notes are really flexible here. You can use a rich text editor to not just write text, but also add highlights and insert links and insert citations to other references of things you've saved in Zotero. So I'm going to say something like, so I'm going to make just a simple note that says, read this by next week. There are also fields in here that you can use specifically, and undergraduates might really appreciate this. There's a field called extra, and it's really extra because you can use that to create annotated bibliographies. And over on the library YouTube page, there's a playlist on using Zotero. And number 4 is in less than 4 minutes, I go through how to use Zotero to create an annotated bibliography.
Hello, this is Roman.
We don't have to watch all that right now, but even since it's only been up about 2 months, and it looks like people are starting to find it with 46 views. So there are these annotation features, and with version 6 of Zotero, the annotation features actually become deeper and richer. Because now with version 6, I can actually go to the PDF if I've saved it, and instead of opening in Acrobat Reader, it's going to open directly in Zotero. I can add annotations here this way too. Seriously, read this by next week. I can highlight text in up to 5 different colors. So we'll make this, whoops, there's the highlighter tool. And I can change my color to blue and put that in blue. These kind of features have been available in the Mendeley system for quite some time. So they're new to Zotero, but they're not new to the world. You can find, of course, there's a search tool that lets you search the text of the PDF. So I can find any word I want, confirming that, yes, these are authors from the Rochester Institute of Technology. That's a pretty common kind of feature that you could use Acrobat Reader for as well, but everything kind of connects here in Zotero if you do it directly in Zotero. If I click this little icon here, it gives me that item metadata that was saved and ported over from Crossref. And if I click the notepad, and as far as my eyes can tell, I still have pretty good eyesight, that is supposed to be a little tiny, like, police officer or newspaper reporter notepad. This is all of the item notes on this particular PDF, plus all my other notes and other items in my Zotero library. So I have the ability to search my notes and organize and, again, kind of take things from the brain and put them onto the desktop this way. So you can imagine that this would be really useful to somebody who's reading dozens of articles and trying to make connections between them in order to argue some thesis or make some point in their own writing. Zotero's fancy word for this is seamless annotation syncing. According to the blog post from this spring where they announced that this was happening, seamless annotation syncing. And Zotero's PDF reader also syncs with the new iOS app. They do not have an Android app at this time, but they do have an iOS app. Never had an official app before this. There were complicated directions for using mobile browsers to try to get things from your device into Zotero. Now, on my info guide, I just have this Zotero for mobile page that says, yes, go to the App Store. Sorry, Android users, but you can go to the App Store. And you can also scan books from, if you have an iPad, you can, and you're reading a lot of books, you can scan the back cover of the book, and it will actually use the iOS Shortcuts app to look up the ISBN and save all the data from Crossref into your Zotero account. So whatever you're reading in hand, if it's in print, you can get that from print into Zotero as well. That's not a new feature of version 6. That's been around for a little while. It's getting a little muddled here. Advanced new features, you can also add notes from, so say I close that out and I go back and I'm thinking and I'm doing something else. Oh, I thought of another annotation I want to add. I'm going to call up that menu again by right-clicking on the title of the article. And I can add a note from annotations. What that actually did was anything that I highlighted is considered an annotation, and it turned it into a note. So I have the ability to kind of move from one sphere to another. And then I can always go back there and add other little, I see. When I edited seriously read, that was the search bar. So that was my mistake. And I can even edit the highlighted text. Add comments. So I have the ability to not just highlight stuff, but turn those highlights into annotations and comment on those annotations. And if I'm collaborating with other Zotero users and we're reading the same articles, then the people who in my group who I share my references and papers with can also read these. So that's a really helpful collaborative feature as well. And you can also make, you can also make annotations, or you can make images into annotations. So if I had this one pre-prepared and I thought I could just click right over to it. Give me one moment to find it. The book Algorithm Design. So there's a note here called image test. And I saved a screenshot of the Zotero mobile app just as a test here, just to kind of prove that you do have the ability to add images and also references to other documents in your library and links and so forth into your notes in Zotero. So we're getting into a place now where everything is connected and all these pieces work to kind of make this not just a citation management tool, but a workspace, so that the student or faculty member who is engaged in a serious research project, or even just their latest term paper, can have the ability to think things through and write things down and have it at hand on their desktop, and then more importantly, add those citations directly into their writing by use of the, let me make this a little smaller, by use of the Zotero word integration tool. And with Zotero version 6, the other thing they added was a new button here in the word processor plugin. This is also available in Google Docs. That is add a note. So you can not just add citations from the items that you saved according to whatever style, but you can add notes to your document as well. Let's test that out. My silly note about read this by next week can now be appended to this kind of hypothetical document that I'm writing. Okay, well, I hope that this is not too much and this is not too confusing. If all you need is just a bibliography, or if an undergraduate first-year student maybe says, oh, that's way too much, that's way too advanced for me, I just need to have a Chicago Manual of Style bibliography that I can use in the paper that I'm turning in tomorrow. This is also not something that came out with Zotero version 5, but Zotero Bib is a web-based tool at zbib.org that allows you to build bibliographies based on the easiest way to do this is using an identifier. an archive ID, a DOI, or an ISBN. So I can take the ISBN up against the wall. I can copy that and paste it into the Zotero bib. And there it is. Okay, well, it's in modern language. It's in MLA format. I can change that to Chicago Manual. And then I can continue to add more. And then once I have everything I want, according to the style I want, I export that to either copy it to a clipboard and then paste it into Google Docs, or download it as a rich text file, which would then open in either LibreOffice or Microsoft Word. So, you know, there are a few drawbacks. Terminology like download BibTeX and download RIS and download RTF, that can be a little abstract for new users. But, you know, the important thing to know is that they actually do kind of clue you in here. Download RTF, that works with your word processor. So that's going to be the one that opens in Word. So that is all I have prepared for today. And before I stop sharing, I just want to remind everyone that, again, infoguides.rit.edu/Zotero, still a bit of a work in progress. Nothing is outdated yet, but I want to add to this guide and improve it. And there still are tutorials on YouTube. I haven't gotten around to putting in my annotated bibliography tutorial yet, but these were recorded 2 years ago. So after I'm done updating the guide, I'll eventually get around. The beginning of the semester might interfere with getting around to re-recording these, but it's on my agenda to re-record these modules so that these new tools can also be integrated into the instructional material that I've prepared here. Okay.